The 154-pound division is headed up by one monster of a fighter. And that fighter happens to be someone that nobody is in any hurry to face. We're talking about GROOMING Murtazaliev, a fighter from Russia who's 32 years old and is looking for all the smoke. You see, when fighters like this come on the scene, everybody seems to rush to the exit to wait for someone else to figure out the blueprint on how to defeat or upset said fighter. But Murtazaliev has time and patience, and he is waiting his opportunity. There are 3 other champions out there that he is looking to face, but none of them are looking in his direction at the moment. Let's talk about this fighter just a little bit more. Time to fight. And that's what the IBF 154-pound title holder GROOMING Murtazaliev says. And after his defeat over Tim Tszyu, many people were taken aback. But what should have been more a part of that narrative was how this fighter had been waiting in the wings for an opportunity. In the meanwhile, there were so many fighters around the top of the division who were not really ready to face off against one another, but waiting for an opportunity for the title shots, but not looking to be a solidified contender for a title. Murtazaliev waited his chance, and on the night in question, he took the fight to Tim Tszyu. We're talking back October of 2024. This young man from Russia, 5'11", orthodox fighter with a 74-inch reach, had been waiting and waiting. With his record of 23-0 and 17 KOs, though he hadn't faced a number of guys that we are familiar with, one of the noted names on his record would have been Jack Culcay. And you see, Culcay was a fighter that he was able to get rid of in 11 rounds. But that's the thing. 11 rounds. People were thinking, oh, well, maybe he's not much of anything. But there were some issues that he had going into that fight that he discussed later that said that held him back from performing at his premium. There were no excuses when he faced Tim Tszyu. He had Tim Tszyu down 3 times in the second round, only to stop him and having him down again in the third. Tszyu fought the total wrong fight against Murtazaliev because he went in trying to impose himself. Once he took a good solid shot from Murtazaliev early, he figured he would, let the anchors drop and go for it. But when you know not a lot about a fighter, you need to fill things out. Box, be smart. Tim was trying to be brazen and bold, and he found himself out of there inside of 3. The rest of the division took note, including Terrence Bud Crawford, who happens to have a title in the division. But then when you look at the interim title, which is held by Virgil Ortiz Jr., and 2 titles that are held by Sebastian Fundora. Between those 2 men, who are around 27 years of age, we need to see someone step forward and face Bakram. You see, that's how you're going to cut your teeth in today's boxing, with legitimacy. And that can build toward your legacy. These men no longer want to do what's difficult, and they want everything handed to them. You see, like Virgil Ortiz, who is really holding on to that status as an interim title holder. You see, the thing is, when he defeated Israel Madrimov, word had already been out when Terrence Bud Crawford defeated him. They didn't want to give Crawford much credit for the victory because he didn't stop Madrimov, even coming off of a string of stoppages at the welterweight division. However, Crawford boxed cautiously and recognized that he didn't have to knock the guy out to win. Virgil went in more or less trying to prove a point. And against Madrimov, that was okay. That was a good roll of the dice for him because Madrimov has proven to us now that he's not a guy that is going to go for broke. So the veil has been kind of pulled back on Madrimov. But you know someone who will roll that dice right with Virgil? Bakram Murtazaliev. Yeah. He's a fighter that will be your huckleberry. And a fighter like Ortiz Jr., who's now 23-0 with 21 knockouts, said that he's ready to challenge any other champions at 154 that are willing to give him the opportunity. Think about it like this. I've said it before. When fighters say they'll take on anyone, that means that if they don't call your name, you're not in that number. However, Bakram's name will never be in that number because these fighters recognize this Russian fighter is for real. He's like 154-pound Artur Beterbiev. He has the same mindset, actually almost the same appearance, and appearance in style, that he is a seek and destroy nature type fighter. Something that is crowd pleasing, but because of his nationality, he's not going to necessarily get that promotional push. But I'll tell you, I'll watch a Bakram Murtazaliev fight 5 days a week, as opposed to some of these other guys that they're trying to promote in the sport that are not delivering what I would like to see in the sport of boxing. Competitive matches and someone who is willing to go for broke at some point during a fight, because yes, you can box your way to victory. But if the opportunity presents itself for you to become the man that separates himself from the opponent during the match, you should take that opportunity. Not at a risk all type endeavor, but from a vantage point of providing there is a difference between me and he. Yeah. And I believe that Murtazaliev brings not only that, but he's also a fighter that if he's gonna go out, he's gonna go out on his shield. He's not gonna go out and lay an egg like Madrimov did against Virgil Ortiz Jr. Now, the other champion that I mentioned, Sebastian Fundora, has been out of the ring quite a bit. And it is now time for him to face someone. He basically blew off 2024 when they were talking about him possibly facing Errol Spence Jr. And that never came to pass. So, in a brutal fight with Tim Tszyu, which was in March of 2024, where I think he suffered a broken nose, and it was a bloody battle. It's time now for him to get back into things. It is already a year from that time. So to see him come back, allegedly on the 22nd of this month, against Chordell Booker, someone that I'm not familiar with at all, we're going to see what happens. You see, because Fundora has a lot to prove now. What we saw against Tim Tszyu was a fighter early on where Tszyu looked like he was on his way to something great until the big cut happened and everyone was bleeding like they were in the slaughterhouse. And as far as Chordell Booker, who's 23-1 with 11 KOs, he's a 33-year-old fighter, and he's out of Stamford, Connecticut. Don't know the kid, and I'm not trying to say he doesn't deserve the opportunity. But what I would like to say is he lost in one round to Austin Emma Williams back in April of 2022. And if that's what you have to show for yourself, I'm sorry. Fundora is going to be a taller tale to solve. And there is a pun intended, because he's 6'5.5" with an 80-inch reach. And Booker has a 70-inch reach, and he's 5'9". So we have to wait, because I believe that Murtazaliev is a guy who would give Fundora exactly what Tim Tszyu was attempting to give him. And that's a loss on his record. And we have to wait for that. We have to wait to see. But in the meantime, I would like to see someone in the ring against this champion. The IBF would like to see someone in the ring with this champion. And though he's from Russia, his residence is Oxnard, California. So I'm certain he's getting good sparring in. And the word is getting around about this young man. Hey, if you don't have to drink that water, don't pick up that glass. But I still want to see him. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Leave comments about your thoughts regarding Bakram Murtazaliev and what do you think should be next for him. Would you like to see him in against one of your favorites? Leave comments and let's discuss further. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.